So now we're going to actually look at some problems where we're going to put all of these exponent rules together. So the first problem that I have, and the directions for this is just to simplify. So those are the directions that you would see. And so for the first one we have here, I have a to the 5th, oops, if I could write that 5, b to the 7th, c, all over a to the 2nd power times c. So we're going to have a lot of different rules all in one. And what freaks people out is really there's no one right way to get started. So people can start in different ways and still get the same result. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw my fraction bar. And first I'm going to take care of these a's. So it's a division rule, so I'm going to have to subtract. And then 5 is bigger than 2, so therefore my a is going to be in the numerator where it's bigger. And then I'm going to do 5 minus 2, which is 3. So I have a to the 3rd power. Okay. B then has nothing to join with, so he just stays there in the numerator, b to the 7th power. And if you notice here, I have c to the 1st and c to the 1st. So since they're the same, we know that what's going to happen is I'm going to have 1 minus 1, which is 0. And c to the 0 power is just going to be 1. So really what's going to happen is that's going to eliminate. So therefore, I don't actually need my fraction bar, so it's just going to be a to the 3rd power, b to the 7th power. Let's look at another problem. Now let's, for this example, kind of take it to the next level. So I have 3x to the 5th, y to the 8th, times 12 x to the 7th y z to the 3rd all raised to the 2nd power. And one thing I'd like to address, this raised to the 2nd power only goes to that guy. So what I'm actually going to do first, because I still have to follow order of operations, so while for a lot of these you can kind of start where you want to, however, I still have to follow order of operations that exponents come before multiplication and division. So I'm going to distribute this exponent to the 12, to that x, oops, to the y, and to the z. So I have to do 12 to the 2nd power. So that's the big thing. 12 has an exponent of 1. And so that's going to be 12 raised to the 2nd power. So 12 times 12 is 144. And then x to the 7th times 2. So 7 times 2 is 14. So I'm going to have x to the 14. Y to the 1st times 2 is going to be y squared. And z to the 3 times 2 is going to be z to the 6th power. Okay, so now what I have to do is I have to multiply. So these whole numbers, the 3 and the 144, you multiply those two numbers like you would anything else. So 3 times 144 is going to be 432. And then I have x to the 5th, x to the 14th. So I have to add those exponents because it's multiplication, so you're adding the exponents. And 5 plus 14 is 19, so I'm going to have x to the 19th. And then y, so y to the 8th times y to the 2, so I have to do 8 plus 2, which is 10. And then that z has nothing to join with, so I just tack him on. So that one got a little bit more complicated. So now let's take it to the next level with these, with our next problem, number 3. And so number 3, I have 12 a to the 7th, b to the negative 2, c to the negative 5, d to the 3rd power, all over 4a to the negative 2, b to the 10th, c to the negative 2, d. Whew, that's quite a bit. So we've got a lot going on this one. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to draw my fraction bar. First of all, I notice with the 12 and the 4 is that I can actually reduce that fraction. I can divide them both by 4, so I get 3 and 1. Okay? And then notice my a's. I have a negative 2, so I'm going to need to move that up. So I'm going to have a to the 7th, a to the 2nd, and I'll handle that in a moment. Okay? And then notice for my b's. My b's here, I have a -2, which means that has to move down. So I've got a b to the 10th that's already down there, and I need to move that b to the 2nd to make it positive. Now notice these c's. That's weird. They're both negative, which means I just need to flip-flop them. So I'm going to move c to the 2nd up and c to the 5th down. That way they're positive now. And then for these d's, those are the only ones that are somewhat normal because there's no negative exponent with that. That's technically a d to the 1st. So you have to ask yourself, where is the exponent larger? The exponent's larger in the numerator, so that's where d is going to stay. And then I'm going to do 3 minus 1, which is 2. Okay, so now at this point I need to fully simplify. So I'm going to have my fraction bar here. Now with the 3 and the 1, I really don't need the 1, but I do need the 3. So now let's look at our numerator. So I've got a to the 7th, a to the 2nd, so that joins together, and that becomes a to the 9th. Okay? And what I'm noticing down here in this denominator, I've got two b's, so let's join those together. B to the 10th and b to the 2nd, that's going to be b to the 12th. And then I have my c's. So you have to ask yourself, where is c's exponent bigger? It's bigger in the denominator. Okay? So then I have to do 5 minus 2, which is 3, because that's where it's, so it's bigger in the denominator, so that's where c is going to stay. And then I just subtract big minus small, 5 minus 2. And then that d to the 2nd power has nothing to join with. So then I have completed my answer. Let's look at our next one that I have, number 4. I have 135a, b to the 2nd power, c to the 5th, d to the 8th, f to the 2nd, g to the 9th, all raised to the 0 power. Because this is all in parentheses and it's all raised to the 0 power, this answer is 1. Okay? So because it's all of it raised to the 0 power, that's why we're able to say that that is 1. Let's look at our 5th problem, and then I have one more after this. So I have 3x to the 5th, y to the 7th, all over 4x to the 8th, y, all raised to the 2nd power. So you can do one of two things. You can choose to distribute the exponent, or you can simplify what's in parentheses first, then distribute the exponent. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and simplify what's inside and then raise it to the 2nd power. So first I'm going to look at the 3 and 4. Nothing that I can simplify, so that's going to be 3 and 4. Now I'm going to look at my x's. So 8 is bigger than 5, therefore x stays in the denominator, and I'm going to do 8 minus 5, which is 3. So I have x to the 3rd power. Then I have my y's. 7 is bigger than 1, because remember it's understood that that's a 1. So y is going to stay in my numerator, and 7 minus 1 is 6. Okay, so now I've simplified what's in the parentheses, and so now I'm going to distribute the 2 to every single piece. So to the 3, to the y, to the 4, to the x. Okay, so 3 to the 2nd power is 9. Y to the 6 times 2 is y to the 12th. 4 to the 2nd power is 16. And then x to the 3 times 2 is 6. And now at this point, I am done. I am fully simplified. One common thing that I notice is that people try to reduce the 12 and 6. Those are exponents. You don't reduce them because they don't have the same base. There's nothing you can do about it. And I have one more here. Number 6, I have x, y over z, all raised to the 3rd power, times a to the 3rd b, all over c, raised to the -4th. So before I multiply, I'm going to have to distribute all of these exponents. Oops. Okay. So I'm going to have x to the 3rd y to the third, z to the third, so nothing too crazy there, times a to the negative 12th, b to the negative 4th, all over c to the negative 4th. So what I'm going to have to do is take care of these negatives. So this is negative, so it has to go down. This is negative, so that has to go down. And that's negative, so it has to go up. So now I'm going to have x to the third, y to the third, z to the third, times c to the 4th, all over a to the 12th, b to the 4th. Okay, so nothing too terribly crazy. And then I'm going to need to multiply them together. Now, if you notice, none of the bases are the same, but when you write your answer, it does need to be in alphabetical order. So there needs to be c to the 4th, x to the 3rd, y to the 3rd, all over a to the 12th, b to the 4th, z to the 3rd power. So that's the big thing too with this, is that it all has to be in alphabetical order whenever you're writing your final answer.